Welcome to Bold Beginnings, where we teach and show you how God works in our careers, what his purpose is for us, and why we should trust him in everything that we do. My name is Rita Wilson.
And I am Sandra Fernandez.
And we are here with Steeven
Steve.
Alvarez.
You go by Steve or
correct?
Steven?
I just go Steve. I mean, whatever, but yes.
Whatever
I
you
know
want to
that's
call me.
Steven, so I'm like,
Yeah, no, but a lot of people
Steven.
just call me Steve. I think everybody's just used
Steve.
to it. Yeah.
Okay, Steven. I'm
Yeah.
calling you by your government
There you
name.
go.
I'm sorry.
You're good. You're
That's
good.
how I know you, right?
AKA the Nike
The Nike-
enthusiast.
I know,
Yes.
I'm trying to get the sponsorship, man.
I love
Nike,
it. I love
what's
it.
up? Right here. He's your boy.
Steve, I'll call you Steve. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you like to do for fun?
For fun, yeah.
Yes.
So, Steven, grew up, so I was born in New Jersey, moved here to Utah in 2001, and been here ever since. So, honestly, what I like to do, besides like the career stuff, I really like to play basketball. Obviously, I don't have the height for it. I didn't go very far with it, but I love to play basketball.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. I'll do that. I like to go shopping. I like fashion a lot, so, those types of things, yeah.
What is your favorite brand?
Honestly, I like the no-name stuff. I'm very, I don't wear brands just because, I don't know, I like to do things that nobody does. So, if I have something and you can't tell what it is, that's better for me.
You're like,
A lot of
perfect.
people just copy.
You're like, I don't want to be like the
I just
next
try to be
person.
unique. Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
So, style switched up a lot within the last year, though.
I like that.
The only thing obviously besides Nike, I love Nike stuff, but a lot of God stuff, so representing God in all that I do.
I like that.
Because before it was very, I don't know, I guess you guys might relate, right? It's growing up and being young, it's not cool to talk about God. It's weird. You
Yeah.
don't talk about any of that stuff.
Right.
So I was very I wouldn't talk about it at all. My beliefs, nothing.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm just this is
who
it.
I am.
Because of him, I'm here. So
Right,
love
right. I love
Yeah.
that. And honestly, I've been seeing that transition and how you've been posting more and
Yeah.
showing that, and I love that. When she
Yeah.
was talking too, I was like, man, I know
Yeah.
this guy, and he's
Yeah.
really dope, and he's
Yes.
so inspiring,
Thank
and he's on his journey, and it's really cool. So
I love it.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
Yeah,
love
no,
it.
it's
All
it takes
that.
courage to talk about that stuff, and it's funny
Yeah,
too because I was
for sure.
looking at it because I've posted every once in a while about my beliefs and stuff, and it's crazy because those posts, whenever you talk about God and stuff like that, least engagement you'll get. on it.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
The
Yes.
least engagement. You could look at everything else and a lot of likes, a lot of views and stuff like that, but as soon as you bring that topic into it, it's
People
doesn't get
don't know
pushed
what to
out. People
say.
don't-
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I think people feel weird about it.
Right.
So, which is, they're gonna keep hearing about it. So eventually, our job is just to keep
Right.
talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm I'm not going to stop talking
Yeah,
about it.
exactly.
So
That's
Yeah.
really what brought us here, though, too, is just being able to share that with
Yeah.
others. I share a lot with my clients.
Yeah.
I can't talk about where I am and what I'm doing without bringing God into
Yeah.
it. You
Yep.
know, because
'Cause he's the
it
reason.
wasn't me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't just my brilliant idea one day. You know,
Uh-huh.
that's not how it happened.
Nope.
That's not how it worked.
I love that. I love that. What does your shirt say? Show us your shirt.
Jesus is King.
Yeah,
Jesus
that's
is
That's
king.
cool.
Yeah.
I
Is
like
that not
it.
no brand?
No brand.
No
No brand. I was I was looking for the brand. I'm
Where's
I
the
don't
link?
see it.
I want the link.
Yeah.
I was.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to
Watch,
you.
everybody will pop up with their Jesus
Yeah, for real.
King
I know everybody's
sweatshirt after
just
this.
print it, just
I
print it
love
off
it.
the computer.
Yes,
iron it on.
I love it. That's
Yes.
a cool hoodie.
That's
Really cool
awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. So we're just going to go through some questions about how God has led you in your life and your career and what he's doing for you today. So, that's, we're
Let's
just going to
do it,
start
yeah.
going through those questions,
it.
What
I
what
love it.
is, I know we kind of know, but
Yeah.
what is it that you actually do right now?
Yeah.
What I do for work?
For work, yeah.
So for work, I'm a real estate agent. I've been in real estate since 2016. Got licensed. Started off part time, and that's kind of I feel kind of the turning point with my whole journey with God and stuff. So 2016 got licensed. I was still working a job out in Ogden. So I worked at a community health center for, at the time, let's see, when I got licensed it was 6 years. And the reason I got licensed is because I bought a house in 2012, my very first house. And the person that was helping me and stuff like that, super good guy, not going to talk bad or nothing. But I felt like I wasn't educated through the process of purchasing a home or really the magnitude of it, how you can leverage real estate. So I bought that home in Ogden, North Ogden. I grew up over here, Layton, Clearfield area. So for me, even though it's not far, like you talk to people from like California or like different states where they actually have to travel.
Yeah.
You know, the distance from North Ogden to Clearfield, Layton area is not that far.
Right.
But us being here, we're very spoiled. We think everything's far if it's more than like a 10-minute drive.
Yes.
So I was living out there and all my friends were down here, stuff like that. So I was just like, after 2 years living there, I was like, all right, I want to move back down. So same thing, called the same realtor that I helped me buy the house. I was like, hey, I want to sell it. And, you know, he came through with this folder, said, hey, this is how much I got to sell your house for. This is how much I'm going to charge you. Sign here. Me not knowing any better, like, of course, just signing all that stuff. And, you know, for me, it was just like one of those things where I was just like, yo, how do other people have multiple houses?
Right.
Like, I don't get that. And my family, for instance, like my parents, like I said, so my parents are originally from Guatemala. They moved to New Jersey, and that's where me and my siblings were all born. So, you know, after a little bit, we moved out here to Utah because my dad got a job offer out here. And we lived in New Jersey. We lived in an apartment my whole life. Moved here, same thing. We lived in apartments, you know, shared bedrooms, like all that stuff. My parents finally bought their house. I think it was like 2004. And they're still living in that same house now. Like, it's just right here over the bridge from here.
Yeah.
So super close. They still live there. And, you know.
I've been there.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Oh, you know my brother,
For
too.
your
Yeah.
brother's calling.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, so you go way back there. Yeah, same house. So, yeah, like, I couldn't go to them asking for any sort of advice because, like, obviously they didn't know. Like, if they would have known, they wouldn't be there.
Right.
Right? So, that kind of just got, like, my head spinning about, hey, like, what do I do? I still ended up selling the house because obviously I didn't have friends. I didn't have anybody I could turn to like ask those types of questions. So I sold the house, and I remember like the agent wanted me to sign like another contract to buy another house because obviously he saw how much money I made. So he's just like, hey, buy another house because it's another commission for him. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, no, you know, I'm just going to go back, live with my parents for a little bit till I figure out what I want to do. Mm-hmm. During that time, I decided to go to real estate school because I was like, yo, if I go to real estate school, it's going to teach me how to invest and do all that stuff.
Yes.
It didn't. You know? Nah, real estate school just
I'm like,
teaches
I'm in
you.
the process. It doesn't.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you'll learn that quick. Just basically how not to get sued. Like, it doesn't teach you anything about the actual career field or like investing.
Cool. I didn't know that.
So, yeah, and
I think that is huge because I think a lot of people do think like,
yeah,
that's how I'm going to learn how to invest. Is
if I go get my license.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's
Oh, wow.
it's really not.
I mean, I thought that.
Yeah, no, it just legit just teaches you how not to like get sued. It doesn't even teach you like contracts. It doesn't teach you negotiation. Like all the stuff that you need to actually do the job. It doesn't teach you any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So the first year I got licensed, I think I did like 2 deals. Yeah, I think it was like 2, and then the second year I did 1. And during that time, so I have a good friend. So like we have a team now. It's called the Bearded Agents because we all have beards. So my good friend, his name is Gerardo. He's NLP certified, so neuro-linguistic programming. He's a coach. And I remember like he did a session with me because he was a real estate investor, but he also had that training. So we did the session, and he's like just asking like, what's holding you back from like doing real estate full time? Because he knew that's what I wanted to do. And I told him like, honestly, I think it's just like the comfort thing. So in that job, I started off at the bottom. Like I started off front desk, and I worked my way all the way up to being a clinic director. So I was over 3 different clinics. Mm-hmm. So my job was managing, making sure staffing was good, that the supplies they needed, handling just all the day-to-day stuff. That was my job. Mm-hmm. So for somebody that didn't finish high school, or not, I finished high school, didn't finish college, that's a really big feat to get up that high without a college degree. So in my eyes, I thought I was doing really well for myself. You know, out of like the friends at the time that I had, you know, I had my own house, I had a nice car, I had a good job, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing good, comparing myself to like the group that I was around. Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of eye-opening things started happening that year. So by the time I started having these conversations, it was 2018. Mm-hmm. I had this session with him, I believe it was August, like end of August, and he asked that question, like, what's holding you back? And I was just like, honestly, like the comfort. Because like when you have your 9 to 5, like your life is set. Like, you know, I wake up at this time, I have to be at work at this time, I go to lunch at this time.
You
my
get
paycheck every 2 weeks is this. I got my benefits, right? My retirement, I got my health insurance, all that stuff. And I was just like, honestly, it's all that stuff that's keeping me tied there. So, you know, he started asking questions. Well, what is it that you really want to do? I told him I really want to do real estate. He asked me why I want to do it. Because like I want to help people. Like I want people to be educated in a way that I wasn't educated as somebody. When I bought my first house, I was 22. So I felt like I was done a disservice by not educating me because I would have done things completely different. If I would have kept that house, I would have learned how to leverage it I'd probably be for sure a millionaire right now. Like, for real, with all the stuff that I know. But
You're like, you should have told me.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, no one told me that stuff. And that's it. Like, it bothered me, right? But more so it bothered me because when I thought about it deeper, I was just like thinking of my family and things like that. Like, they're in the same place because other people don't see the value in helping my parents. You know what I'm saying? How many other people are like that? Because if you're going to get into real estate, you'll notice, like, a lot of agents really are in it for the money. And they're not going to go to the underserved people, nothing like that, because it's too much work for them. Right. Why would I help you when I can help this person that's going to make me a lot more money? That's their mindset, right? So during that session, he just told me, like, hey, like, cool, you know what it is that you want, now make a plan to do it. So I remember we got, like, super in-depth about, like, how I was going to do it. So he's like, if you're going to quit your job, you know, when are you going to do it? And I remember I told him, I don't know, we could do, like, December. I was like, I think it was like December 7th, I want to say was the date. And he's like, all right, well, what time are you going to write up your resignation email? And I was just like,
for your job.
Well, I go to work I get up at 6, I get there like 7, so like 7:30. So he's like, okay. He's like, what are you going to say? Like, literally telling me, like, what are you going to say in the email?
Yeah.
You know, I just told him.
Because he was scared you wasn't going to do it, huh?
Yeah, no, it was just like, because it's like you got to put yourself in that situation. Like, that's the whole thing about that mindset trains. You have to put yourself in the situation. Like, everybody talks about, like, law of attraction, things like that, which we could talk about a little later, my thoughts on that. But basically, it's like that, putting yourself in the situation to know and feel it so that you know what it is when you're going to do it.
Right.
So did all that stuff, right? And we ended the session, and cool, like, I had my goals set, like, this is when you're going to do it, so prepare for it. So that was in August. September, so I think it was like 2-3 weeks after that. So I worked in a community health center, so a lot of, like, our funding and things like that comes from the government, right? So we had gone a couple years without getting any government funding. So, like, as managers, we were the last ones to get raises. Like, everybody else was getting raises underneath us. So we were the ones that had to sacrifice, you know, community health center stuff. So this one year, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, we got this money. We're going to give all you guys managers raises. As soon as I heard raises, I was like, yo, maybe I could do both still. Like, I could still do real estate and I'll still work my job because the extra money sounds really nice. And in my eyes, you know, when you look at everything, because everything in this world is spiritual, it just depends, you know, how it is that you look at it. And all of us were, as you guys know, like, we're all creating God's image, right? We all know that we're meant to do more. It just depends on us to be able to tap into that, to be able to pursue what it is that God wants us to do in this world.
Absolutely.
So I take it, as soon as I made that decision that day where I was just like, yo, I'm going to do both of them, I'm not going to quit, God was just like, nah, I got different plans for you. So God, knowing that I was not strong enough to make the decision myself to quit and go and pursue what it is that I wanted to do and needed to do, right? Because obviously there's families that needed my help. October 22nd, 2018, I got fired from that job. So it was crazy because you see, like,
gonna let you go.
Oh yeah, no, you look at the buildup and stuff like that, and everybody that knows about it, it's crazy the way it happened. It was just, we won't go into detail about it, but it's just like upper management was changed. People came in that wanted me to fire certain people I didn't want to fire, and just, like, basically conform to what it is that they wanted. So of course, if you go against what it is that people want you to do, they're going to find a way to get somebody in there that will do what you want them to do. Right. So that's what ended up happening. And like I said, I always remember the date because it's like the date that, like, changed my life for real. I remember I got fired that day, and I remember I drove, so it was in Ogden, I drove down to Clearfield to Rafa's office because during that time I also got licensed to do life insurance. So I sat in the parking lot and I was like, all right, you got some decisions to make. Like, you got bills to pay, you got all this stuff, so what are you going to do? You know, and then let alone that I got fired in October, you know, what comes after October, right? You got Thanksgiving, then you got Christmas, you got gifts, you got all this stuff that you have to do. So, and aside from that, like, the regular bills of your everyday that you have to pay and make sure you're taking care of. And obviously, like, I had a savings, but savings doesn't last forever if money's not coming in.
Right.
So it's just like, all right, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to go and start applying for jobs, or are you going to take these licenses that you have and do something with it? So that day is just like, all right, like, I'm going to bank on myself. Like, let's see what you can do. So I remember I just started calling people, and I was like, yo, this will happen, and let's get to work. Like, what do we have to do? And that's the beginning of, like, everything,
how it
basically.
Started.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
What does it mean to be led by God?
Dang. I mean, that's a deep question. It means, like, it means everything, like, honestly. Because, like I said, like, we're all destined to be gods, in my opinion. Gods and goddesses, right? It's in us. Like, we have the power to create which a lot of people take that lightly. And not just meaning like kids and things like that. Like we have power to create like and help other people. Like a lot of people say, you know, oh, one man can't change the world and stuff like that, right? But like people don't look at it deeper. Like the way that I look at it, like say we're having this conversation, something that I say or something that you guys say is going to affect my life, right? Who do I know outside of us here, right? We all have different networks and connections. That message that you shared with me, I'm gonna go share with somebody else, and that's gonna affect them, and vice versa. It just keeps trickling down. So a lot of us don't think that way. We think like, hey, like my story doesn't mean anything, or like what I'm going through doesn't mean anything, or it can't help anybody or inspire anybody. And that's the whole reason before we started our podcast was that, because it was funny how many people like you reach out to and you ask them like, hey, like we want you on the podcast to share your story. And everybody's like, why me? Like, why? What do I have to share? Like, I don't feel like I have anything. And it was sad. Like,
we all have a story.
Oh, yeah. No, and it's sad, like, hearing people, like, feel like they don't have something worth sharing, something that could inspire somebody else. So it's, like, looking for those opportunities. Like, that, to me, is what it means to be led by God. I look at, like, every single client that I've been able to help, and it's, like, I've never had a bad experience. Like, one way or another, like, during the process, I see why it is that God placed us together. And not just placed me and the client, right? But the person that referred them and, like, all that stuff. Because, again, it's all a trickle effect. Like, things, it's not a coincidence what happens. Like, we just have to be ready and open to those things.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that we lack, especially nowadays where it's super easy to get drowned out with, like, social media, with music, with, like, movies, like, all this stuff that's meant to, like, distract us from being able to reach our potential.
I like that.
And I see a lot with my nephews. Like, that's where, like, it hits me a lot, because they're like that preteen age. And that's a hard one. And I think about it when I was growing up, and I'm like, see them now with the things that they have, like the cell phones. Like, I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 17, 18. I had to buy it myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the video games, they have access to so much stuff that we didn't as kids. And it's like, it's scary.
It is.
It's scary because, you know, the enemy's working hard. He's working overtime.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. I remember my mom told me it is your responsibility to make sure that your children know God.
Yeah.
God has given you. And I think I share that with you. And, you know, I think those were one of the moments I was like, okay, Lord, I need you to lead me, because I don't even know where I'm going. So how am I going to teach my kids, you know? And so I just need to completely just trust in you and let you lead me. And it's been great. You know, and I sit back, I was talking to Sandra the other day. I was like, why did it take me so long to do this? This is so much easier.
No, that's the thing. As humans, we always question things. Like, we make things so difficult. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I say. I'm like, things are pretty simple sometimes, but like we complicate them so much. Like, I know I complicate so many things. And that's why I love having friends around in a circle that are like, why don't you just do this? And it's like, oh my gosh, like, why can my brain not think like that? You know, like, I'm over here thinking like,
I'm gonna outsmart God. I'm gonna do it easier.
We're like bouncing from building to building when they're like, you could just take the sidewalk.
Exactly.
You know?
No, I think about that all the time.
I love it. I love it. How do I know God's purpose for my life?
That's crazy.
How did you know, like, if you know, or like, if it's like, you know, what is that to you?
So for me, it's going back and like thinking about all the different, because we all make decisions out of the way we've been raised and like different things that have happened to us, right? And I think about like every single career choice that I've had, like not career choice, but like jobs, for instance. Every single job that I've had has like entailed helping other people, you know? So community health center, a lot of people wouldn't want to work for a community health center because you get paid less, which you do. Again, it's government funding, things like that, right? But so for instance, like for myself, the clinic that we worked at is for underserved, so people that didn't have health insurance, things like that. And I remember, like I said, I started from the bottom, so I started out front desk, so starting to get to know all these clients, just checking them in, you know, getting them ready for their appointments, like all that stuff. From there, I got promoted 2 years later to, it's around the time when the whole Obamacare came out, so everybody was able to get health insurance and things like that, Medicaid. So the clinic ended up starting like this division for health insurance, so for helping these people get on it. So they asked me to basically take that project on. So from there, we grew to like about a team of 5. And it was helping people get health insurance that have never had it before. So, you know, I put myself in that situation where, like, luckily I was blessed by my parents. Like, my dad, for instance, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad, like, worked always. And we always had health insurance. Mm-hmm. So, like, I never understood, like, the whole not being able to have health insurance. You know, not be able to just go to the doctor when you feel sick or, you know, going picking up medications or you have to go to see a specialist, you just go. Mm-hmm. Something that tiny, like for me, that I took for granted because I always had it, for these people it meant everything. You know, finally be able to go see their specialist about whatever concern that they had about their knees, their joints, whatever it was, and being so grateful to be able to have health insurance to be able to go do that. So that brought me a ton of joy in just seeing like their stories, and then again getting to know these people like on a personal level, and then being so grateful for being able to help them. So that's kind of like my taste of it. Prior to that, so like I grew up, you know, LDS, and I went on an LDS mission. So I went to Argentina, and that was like this whole other aspect of it, like leaving the country and actually seeing how people live and seeing how grateful they are and seeing the actual sacrifices that these people make to actually go and worship God and things like that, where like, again, we take it for granted, right? Like you can go down any block you want. Here, There's a church on every block, you know, you can go wherever. And it's not a sacrifice anymore, like being here. So it's like if you can leave the country and go see how other people really live, like it really changes your idea of what sacrifice really is. And am I really a believer if I'm really not making that much effort because it's so convenient for me everywhere? Right. So it's like I said, just like a combination of all those things that just led me into this. And the part of like real estate, again, like I went into it for selfish reasons because I wanted to learn how to invest in real estate. But then it turned into like something else, seeing the way my family grew up, not just them, the type of services that they got, and then seeing other people go through the same thing. And then realizing that like providing a home to a family, it changes their life drastically than having them always renting or living out of apartments and things like that. It changes the way that people think and the way that those kids grow up, because everything in life is cyclical if somebody doesn't change it, you know? So seeing those things like really push me into like what it is that I'm doing now, and it's more so just education. Right. It's just purely educating people and helping them. To me, it's like if I get the business, cool, but if I don't, I'm not tripping about it. Right. Because, you know, God's going to put the people that I need to help in my path. Right. Those people, yeah, we may not do business together, but at least now they know what standard to hold other people to that will help them. Right. You know, eventually everything goes back around. That's why, like, I don't worry about money. I don't think about that stuff. Because, like, money really is, like, it's a necessary evil. Like, we need it, right? But a lot of people take that and they worship that. Like, that's all they want. And it keeps getting pushed further and further away from them, and they keep chasing it and chasing it and chasing it, and they never get it because that's who they worship, that dollar. Right. So I try not to focus on that, because when I, during that time frame of the getting fired and not having income coming in because I didn't have anything, I got sucked into that, and that's where I learned it quick. I started getting like a couple clients just asking me about like real estate and things like that. And I remember I would go to appointments, we'd look at houses and they get excited about it. First thing I do when I got into my car is like, how much are they paying for this? Start doing the math, like, oh, I'll make this much money off of this client.
You know what? I've been caught up in that too. Yeah. Yep. There's moments where you're like, oh, I need a hustle. And then you calculate things, but then my heart is like, girl,
better
wrong.
Stop it.
It's like good. It's like good because you do want to be aware, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like, what's the deeper
motive.
intention?
I do that
right?
too.
Like the intention, the motive.
Yeah,
totally.
no,
I do that too.
Yeah, no, that's what happened to me, because like my motive was like, I ain't got no money coming in. I got bills to pay, and I got to buy presents for my nieces and nephews. Like that was my motive, right? Very like things of the world. And it was crazy because like every single one of those clients that I did that with, all of them like, oh, I'm not going to buy right now, or I'll just wait, or this or that. Like, every single deal fell through.
They can feel it. People can feel if you're really vested in their situation.
Or if it's for personal gain.
Or if you're vested in them. People can feel it. They know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I know that's what's happening. For me, it was like one of those moments where I like checked myself. Right. Like, really, like, I had a conversation with myself in my car. And I was like, really, bro? Like, why are you doing this? If you're doing it for the money, then just go get a job if you're that desperate. Right. Like, plain and simple. If you're that desperate, you need money, just go get a job.
But you want it to feel right, and you want it to be right. And, you know, there's a difference for me when I am having a conversation with somebody, you know, like I want to get the best out of that conversation for myself. It's a learning experience for me and that person, but you know, I really want them to feel like I care and you know, make them feel valued in that moment with my job, right? And that's what like keeps me going and the passion for doing that, and that's why I'm so, you know, good at that. But yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying, and it needs to be natural, it needs to be real.
Exactly.
That's how you know it's for you.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's how they feel it. Like they'll feel your genuineness, and it's crazy because like a paycheck's cool. Like I'm sure you guys make money. You're like, damn, this is nice, but it's always different when you build that connection with the client and they talk so highly of you, or like the paycheck doesn't mean anything. Like honestly, that connection that you built with them, that they saw and felt your actual genuineness and can go and share that to somebody else and refer people out to you, that's bigger than any paycheck you'll ever get.
It's like brands, right? If somebody wears a brand, let's say they was wearing like Nike since they were little, right? And they really love it. I'm like Nike because I remember you saying Nike. You know, their kids wear Nike and their kids, and you know, I mean that gets passed down. So you definitely need to be intentional, right, and impactful because you never know.
Yep,
Definitely.
You never know.
I like that. Thank you.
That's so true. Car conversations.
Yes.
I've had so many of those where that's where you get checked in the car.
Oh yeah. No, it's easy. Like
love it.
Conversations, tears, like there's a lot of stuff that happen. I have like this car, an older car that I have. A lot of my friends, they call it like the black cat because it's like it's always trying to die and I bring it back to life. You know, 9 lives.
It's always trying to die on you.
Yeah. I'm like, they're like, yo, just let it die.
I'm like what?
I'm like, I can't let that car die. And it's for that reason. Like this, like that car. Everything happened in that car when I got fired. Like, took me to appointments and I wasn't making money. And I was just like, I got to fill up your gas tank. I know eventually this is going to pay off. Like, there's a lot with that car. There's like that emotional attachment to it. I was like, that was my rider right there, dude. Like, that helped me get to where I'm at.
And guys
right
start naming their cars.
Yeah.
I think I have an attachment to my car too. I got like,
I don't.
It teaches me so many lessons. In life. You're like, I don't. I'm good.
I really don't.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. I think it's just like those pivotal moments in your life. That's what it is that attaches me to it. It's not so much the car because the car is a nice car. I'm not gonna lie, but it's more so the things that I learned within that car and the conversations. And I'm a person, I don't show my emotions very well. Like you can ask anybody that's close to me. I don't. There's probably a handful of people probably see me cry, you know, and the car's probably seeing it the most. You know,
car knows
the car's like, I know you're sad
soft.
right
I know
now.
You're soft, bro. You're not as hard as you think you are.
I love it. Calls you soft. You be like, what was that sound? God, was that you? No.
It's just the car dying.
It's the car dying. I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Does God choose our career path or do we? What do you think about that question?
Dang, that's another deep question.
They're all deep.
Yeah. I mean, I think God has a hand to play in everything. I don't think it matters like what career you're in, really, because like being a follower of God and, you know, choosing to like share, you know, his good news and all that stuff, like doesn't matter. You could be at McDonald's doing that. The career really doesn't matter. It's more so like the person and the belief that you have. And, you know, everybody gets called during their time. Right, because like I said, like my journey, I would say started in 2018, but didn't really like hit until like this year, right? And I think it's the same with like everybody. I think all of us know of God, and in some sort of way we believe in God. I just think like nowadays we're very conditioned to think of like, oh, the universe or like this and that. Like everybody wants to take God out of everything. So that's like where I was talking about like law of attraction. Everybody talks about law of attraction and
take
like
them out of school,
you gotta believe and all that stuff. Like take them out of schools, like not even doing the Pledge of Allegiance, you know. But you got like all these like mindset gurus that talk about, you know, energies and like all this stuff, and it's just like, no, dude, like it's God. Like when you talk about law of attraction, it's like you're praying to God for something that you want. Right. You know, what is law of attraction? Is like it's not just like thinking about it. Imagine yourself like you worked for it. You know you work towards it. Same thing with God, right? Faith without works is dead.
Right.
Same thing, same concept. People just take God out of it because nobody wants to talk about it, so let's make it into something trendy and cool.
Right.
And let's build a business off of that.
Right.
And it's just, when you start realizing, seeing all these things, it's hard not to be a believer, right? Because, like, why are people so adamant about taking God out of things?
Right.
Right? Like,
why are they scared to have the conversation?
Exactly.
Why can't it be part of our day-to-day conversations?
Exactly. Yep. Everybody takes the spirituality out of it for a reason.
Right.
You know, because if the enemy knows that he can steer you away and not know your full potential, he wins. That's one more soldier for him. So cool. And you have to be aware of that stuff. And I feel like a lot of people choose, like, I have a couple friends I talk about too, a lot of, like, spiritual stuff, and I always tell them, I was like, you can't be saved in ignorance.
Right.
Like, just because you say, like, I never read the Bible, so I'm chilling, like, I'm good, like,
right,
I can't get judged off of that.
Right.
It's like, no, you're purposely avoiding it.
Exactly.
So it's just like it's there. We live in a spiritual world, right? If there's evil, if there's good, obviously there's evil. Like, it goes hand in hand. So I
love that.
I really do think, you know, the career doesn't have anything to do with it. I think it's more so the person.
The person.
God will guide you in any position in life.
One of the things you said that stood out to me was my career started in 2018, but it really didn't, like, kick off till now. And, like, to me, and that's just confirmation for me that I need to be patient sometimes, you know? Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I am a go-getter. I would do it all, and I want it now, right?
Yep.
And but, you know, transitioning into, like, you know, my faith and just giving my life to God, I really had to learn patience, you know, and, you know, I've been digging really deep into my Bible, and you know, one of the things I was reading is, like, it's okay for me to be a businesswoman and go get it, right? But my first priority as a woman of God is to put my family first, put my kids first, and then pursue my business, you know, and my business life and those things. I looked at her because she knows me really good. I just got to look at her for confirmation sometimes, girl. You know what I'm saying. Girl, you know, you're good. But, you know, those are things I'm learning because I can get lost in work and wanting it now and working hard to get it now. And I'm very, like, I lack patience. I really do. And that's something I've been working on. So I love that. Stood out to me because, you know, that's just confirmation that you've got to stay patient and diligent, and
it takes time.
It will come.
It's not like, you know, there are some people that, you know, they hit and bam, you know, but a lot of times they will tell you, like, it takes time.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes time to get the recipe right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
A lot
I have to play that lottery ticket like 6 times, you know, maybe 20.
I'm like, no, it does. It takes time, and sometimes, like, I know in the beginning I was very like yes, like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and I would do it, and bam, bam, bam. But with time also comes moments of learning moments and challenges. And then sometimes if you stay there, you get stuck. And then you lose confidence and you lose momentum and you lose, you know what I mean? And I'm in that position right now where I'm learning to learn from that. And so I call it, like, a tantrum. I feel like I throw tantrums. Like, I'll be in my room.
A big
and
girl
I'm like,
tantrum.
In my room or in my car, and I'm just, like, crying, and I'm like, what? Like I don't feel you no more. Like, where you at? But it's so crazy because he's like, I'm still here. Like, have your tantrum, but I'm still here. You know, and through that, it's funny because when we take the driver's seat, and we're like, Lord, I got this. Like, you could sit back, watch me now, you know? And he's like, all right, cool.
He'll let you take the wheel.
And then I will run straight into the walls. And this is, like, in real life and spiritually. But, like, I will run into a wall, and then I'm like, oh, great. But in all reality, it's because I took that control, and I was like, let me do it. You know? And every time I've done that, it's like, but he's so merciful and so graceful to still take that moment and be like, let me show you what you could do from here. You know, let me show you what you could do better. Let me show you in your mindset, like, what mindset, what habit, what is made you run into this wall, you know? And that's where I'm like, Lord, like, you are just so good, you know, and something, we interviewed Pastor Rob, and he said, I'm losing my train of thought, but he said,
I told you to write it down.
He said, how, okay, let me go back. I like looked outside and I lost my train of thought. But anyways, how in those moments, God is still there and he's still redirecting you. And when you get to know God through his word or in being in a relationship with him, you know what he's like, you know what I mean? So then whenever you do get into these moments of, you know, quote unquote failures or challenging moments, for me, God was like, take it back to the simplicity of it. Like, I'm a God of order. Yeah. You know, like, your life is chaotic, girl. Like, sit down and let's get back into order, you know? And and it's just so awesome how through every moment, like, you really, it is a learning moment. And
no, it's all a journey. I think one of my,
it takes time.
It does. One of my favorite quotes is, so Kobe, like, obviously basketball. Growing up, I didn't like Kobe whatsoever. Because I'm from Jersey, you know, LA.
Like, you like
they went
Kobe?
to the playoffs a couple times.
Should we have invited you here? I'm joking.
No, I had to. I was one of the biggest Kobe haters growing up.
Oh man!
But you could respect his game, right? Like his game and like his work ethic and stuff like that. And when he retired, you know, it's like when people pass away, right? Everybody starts going back and seeing like how great they really were. One of the things I really liked was his retirement speech to his daughters, and I obviously don't know the quote word for word, but basically, like, it's one of my favorite quotes because he's like talking to them and shares something super similar, where he says, like, basically, just like kind of paraphrase, everybody is wanting the success and like the accolades and stuff like that. They just want to be there, you know, and thinking like, hey, that's my dream, like that's what I want. And he says he says to them, you know, the dream isn't that. The dream is the journey, like going through it and going through all the things that the fails and the changes that you see within your life. That's the journey, and that's the dream. That's actually the dream, seeing yourself change, right? Because a lot of us get caught up in wanting the success, wanting the money, and all that stuff. Right. But once you get it, you got it. Then what else? What else from there, right?
It's not all what you thought it was.
No, it's not. It's those times where you go through those things and you start seeing the people that were around you. You start seeing God's hand in things. You start seeing the change within yourself, right? Because if you guys look at yourself, even 6 months from, you know, before where you guys are now, you guys are probably completely different people. So it's like those little journeys and those little lessons that you learn that makes the journey worth it, right? You know, and that's something that I keep in mind a lot, because, I mean, everybody wants the things of this world, right? Like the money and like all that stuff, be able to travel and do all that. But you can't take that stuff with you, right? When you pass away, what are people going to remember you for?
Right.
You know, the way you made them feel, the time you helped them out, the time you called them when they were at their lowest, you know, the compliment that you gave so-and-so walking down the street, or just saying hi to somebody on the street. Those little things are like what people remember you for. Right. Because nobody cares what's in your bank account. It doesn't benefit them. Right. You know? So.
Right. I love that. That's really
cool.
Thank you. Thank you. How is God working in your life right now?
Yeah, he's doing a lot. He's doing a lot. How is he working? Like I said, you know, this journey the last year has been like crazy. There's just like a lot of changes. And I think a lot of us like struggle with change because, again, we're so used to having things be a certain way and being comfortable. Right.
Just want to sit there. Yeah. Y'all better stop it.
Yeah. No, God's like, we gotta switch it up. Like,
got to go.
Because through change comes growth, right? The thing that you don't want to go through, right? And through every lesson, like there's growth, and some of it isn't always going to be like fun and beautiful and things like that. It's going to be pain that like hurts and different things like that. And you know, I think that's the only way that you can really grow. That's when you know you're being refined basically by God, and you being able to like recognize that, like, okay, like this is a refining moment. One of the like posts that I shared probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago was in regards to, like, especially all the stuff going on right now, like there's a lot of negative stuff going on, like a lot within the world.
Yeah.
And it's very easy it's funny because like no one believes in God until something bad happens. Everybody's like, oh, where's God if you believe in God?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's when everybody
they
wants
try to call him out.
Yeah.
And God's probably looking down like, really?
Yeah.
Are y'all trying me? Are y'all trying me right now?
In your life, and now all of a sudden you want to bring me up.
Right.
Like, But that's like one of the things that I shared was like, as, a heavenly Father, right? God doesn't want to see us hurt.
Right.
And like we talked about it, like a lot of times, God set things out for us. Like if you follow these rules, you do this, you're going to be good. Like you don't have to worry about it, but we complicate it.
Right.
So, I started like really thinking about that and thinking about how when things are bad, everybody blames God.
Right.
And the thing that we don't realize, like we came to this world, right, to be tested. We came here to be able to show God that like, hey, like I really do love you and I really do want to go back and be with you, with my friends and family. And a lot of the times we forget that we have that free will. Right. And we forget that like every decision or every choice that we make has a consequence. And that consequence is on us because we know what it will happen if we do certain things, but we still choose to do it. Right. So how is it that we get mad at God or say, God, why would you allow this to happen when we made that decision? Right. And we knew the consequence. It's not God's fault because like you guys have kids. Do you guys want to see your kids hurt? Like the stove is blazing hot and you see your kid running towards it. Like, do you want them to touch that stove?
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
But the kid is curious and they want to touch it. Do you let them touch it because they're curious?
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you try not to, right? But the kid's going to do it.
You try to save them.
You try to save them, but they're going to do it.
But they have to learn also.
Exactly. That's the same thing with us, right? Like, even though we feel like we're adults, we're grown, like all this stuff, like we're kids. Like, we don't know any better.
I'm like, I throw an adult tantrum all the time.
Yeah.
No, all the time. Like, stubborn. Like, like, we question everything. And I put myself in that situation, and I'm like, God doesn't want us to be hurt, but he's going to allow us to get hurt so that we learn. And like you said, like there's always a way to come back from it. That's the beautiful thing about like God is he laid out a plan for us to be able to still fall, still make our mistakes. But, once you learn from it, like, arms wide open. Yes. Like come back. Like I'm here to help you. And, I'm never going to abandon you. Where like a lot of people think all this stuff that's happening is like God's just allowing it, and so they can't be no God or God's evil and like all this stuff.
That's not true.
And it's not like that at all. And those are the people that don't know God.
I was gonna say if they only knew him.
Yeah, if they only knew exactly.
If they only knew him.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that.
Because there's still the choice and the will, and like you said, there is consequence.
That's true.
Yeah, to everything.
It's very true. I love it. Yeah. Last question of the day: how is God leading you today? In this moment.
In this moment. He brought us here so we could have this conversation, I think the biggest thing is probably that is being able to share more. One of the things that we talked about.
Well, hopefully you want to come back. So.
I'd love to come back, trust me. One of the things that I was thinking about, the same thing like our journeys and things like that, where a lot of people don't like to share or feel like they're unworthy. A lot of us care what other people think.
Yes.
Like we just care. Yes. It's just who we are. We want people's approval, especially again with social media and stuff. Like we just want people's approval. We want to fit in, and a lot of times like that takes away from like our growth. Because one of the things that I've been more so like focused on is sharing like my journey and things that I'm going through. Like we talked about like social media, like a lot of people make everything seem like it's all perfect and like easy and like stuff like that. And it's just natural. It's just the world that we live in. We want to show our best selves to the internet, to the world. And a part of this life is like to be able to share with each other and grow from each other. Right. And I think we get to the point where we become ashamed of things that we've done or things like that we start like dimming our own lights. And the thing that we have to realize is like there's only one person that can judge us.
Come on, Steven.
I'm like, you better preach.
Yeah.
Put my hands out real quick.
I think about that a lot because like we care a lot about what other people think and care about their judgment. But it's like when we're all at the judgment table, right? They're gonna be sitting right next to you.
Right.
And a lot of us like hide the things that we do a lot better than other people. Yeah. Right. But at the end of the day, like we're all gonna be lined up there being judged for the things that we did or didn't do. Right. So absolutely, it's just being more open about like those things because it could help somebody else. Yes. Whatever struggles that we're going through, like it should be shared. We don't always have to just share like the success and things like that. Like it's a given we're going to share that because who doesn't want to? Because everybody wants to be praised and be like, oh, good job. Here's a heart on your post or like whatever. Yeah. But when it comes to like the bad stuff, no one wants to share any of that stuff. Yeah. And I think we need to be more
perfect.
Yeah. And we need to be like more open about those types of things and not care so much about like what the world thinks.
You know, I will honestly say that hit me too, Steven.
Yeah.
What are you doing today?
Yeah.
I definitely can be that person.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want my business out there. I don't want people to like to know my business. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's not necessarily what I feel like people would think about me. I just don't want people talking negative about me without really knowing who the real Rita is, you know? And I think I fixate myself on that. And that's why I'm like, nope, I don't want nobody to know what's going on with me. And you know what? I shouldn't do that, you know? Because who cares? As long as God knows who I am, and He knows my heart and my intentions, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And that's something I've actually been struggling with, you know. So thanks.
Yeah, no, I think all
and
of
she's
us.
right, you're preaching, so there you go. You made me talk again.
I think that's really. I think it's really dope though that you brought up the fact that on Judgment Day you are going to be next to that person, because in my life I found it where I will put somebody on a pedestal and I'm like, oh, this person is like, you know, and then God's like,
why?
No, like you're now idolizing this person.
And we're not
and whenever
supposed to do
you
that.
put somebody on a pedestal, you're now below them.
Yes.
So now you are less than them, right? And it last year actually is when I learned this lesson. And the Lord said, you ain't better and you ain't less than. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you guys are all on a journey here.
Yep.
You know, you're right here. You know what I mean? Side by side. And they're going through struggles. You're going through struggles. They're human. You're human. You know, they might have more money in their bank account, you know, but that doesn't
make them better. Like, even for them, it probably doesn't even make them happier either. Than you know.
Right. And I learned this big lesson of that is not putting people on this like pedestal.
Yeah, big one. I like that.
Yeah, no, it's huge.
Really good.
So,
awesome.
I guess to answer your question, that's probably like my biggest journey this year is that.
Yes,
and I think the biggest
that.
thing that hit me, kind of like going along the lines of like what you said, is that I'm the same way. I'm very like, I don't want nobody in my business. Don't want anybody getting like that close and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what hit me was more so like with my own family, I tend to be that way, where like I'm doing all this stuff right, and my family doesn't even know because I'm just so quiet about it. Like I don't talk about it unless they see it like on social media and things like that.
Yeah.
And it just hit me one day where it's like, what if something was to happen to me and like my family didn't even know who I really was? Right? Like that hit me way hard.
Or like even some things that you've been through, but yeah, you know, and there are things that happen in our lives that I don't know, we're not really ready to talk about, you know. But when you really think about it, it's like you really could help somebody with you speaking up about you know your situations and like. There's been something that's been like eating me inside that I'm like, you know, but it's like, but like you said, there's like shame there and there's, you know, but whatever the enemy can keep hidden.
It's to hold you back. Yeah.
It will hold you back.
No, 100%.
It will hold you back.
It does. And like, that's what I say, like, I felt that in my life. That's like the biggest thing. And one of the, and it's everybody, like, obviously, like everybody goes through this types of things. But like, it's not very, I guess like strong to say.
Right.
Like one of the things that I started doing this year, which is like something like I never said I would do. Like we all come from families that are not, I don't know how to say it politically correct, because like Caucasian people do things way different. Like they grew up different.
Yes.
They, you know, finances are different. The way they handle things are different. And like for us, if you were to say, hey, like I'm going through stuff, I want to go see a therapist. What was the first thing your family says? Like, what?
Come on, Steven.
Like, what?
Yeah. Like, that's a whole nother time. You opening a can of worms there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
love it.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, you're looked at as weak or like being dramatic if you go and say, hey, I need to go, like, I really want to go see a therapist, talk about certain things. And it's like one of those things where I started doing this year. I had a buddy that has been doing it for years. And I wouldn't even know it, right? Because we don't get deep like that with people. You don't talk about it. Because you don't talk about it, exactly.
I get it.
And we were like talking about it, and then like just going through all the different things I was going through. And I'll put it out there, like I didn't have a bad life. Like a lot of people think if you go to therapy, it's because like, oh, you went through something traumatic, stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, it's more so being able to handle certain things. Right. And one of the things that I struggle with a lot is the communication part of it, and being able to like openly communicate and things like that.
Right.
I just grew
Isn't
up.
it crazy though that you struggle with communication, yet you're on a podcast talking?
That's what I'm saying.
And
Like,
you do
these are
videos.
Right.
I understand you though.
That's what I'm saying.
I understand you.
And this is why my journey barely started, right?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have done any of this stuff before.
Right.
And these are things that like, are outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right.
Like being able to talk. I hated doing video. Again,
Yeah.
you know, I hate the way I look. I hate the way I talk. My voice sounds weird. I don't think I sound like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you judge every single thing not to put out that video.
Right.
But it's all us just being
Hard on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I get
just
it.
being difficult.
I get it.
So it's
I
just
love
like starting to do those things, like the videos, like taking invites like this and saying yes a little bit more often.
Yes.
And
Help
being
those
okay
things.
with like, hey, I need a little bit more help outside of like what I can handle.
Right.
Right. So
Love that.
going out and getting help, just talking to a therapist and things like that has been like awesome.
I love that.
And it's just like one of those things, again, like we shouldn't be ashamed of it. Like,
Right.
shame holds us back. Like,
It
that's what the
does,
enemy wants.
man.
Like, he wants you to feel ashamed for the things that you've done. Oh, don't talk
Yeah.
about it. It's better just keep it to yourself.
Right.
But all that's doing, what is it doing? It just keeps dimming your light even more and more until
Right.
it's gone
Until
and you feel
it's gone.
hopeless.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, I agree 100% with that. I think those are definitely, and those are areas that I even struggle in. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
But if you had one thing to leave our listeners and viewers, because this was a great conversation.
Steven, this is your last
This
day
was
on
a great conversation.
What
Last
is
day on
your-
earth, this girl.
No, if. Okay, no. All right.
What would
it be?
Just something positive to leave
Something
our listeners
positive.
and viewers. Yeah. Or something short, like a quote.
Like
Whatever.
if you were
Yeah.
just speaking to like
Yeah.
millions, right?
Millions. Yeah, they will. We're
Billion.
gonna
He
get
would
this to
tell you the
millions.
Nike quote.
Yeah.
Just do it.
No,
go
honestly,
ahead.
just something simple enough. Just like, you are enough.
I love it.
Like,
Love
just
it. Oh my
knowing
gosh,
that.
Steven.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
that's so good.
You are
Yeah.
enough. That's a good one.
That's actually like I have that. I did this video one time and we each had to write down something that we like struggled with, you know,
Yeah.
and mine was that like
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
enough, and my whole interview and everything was on you are enough.
But,
I like
based off
that.
Yeah, we're just our own
beautiful.
hardest critics.
That's awesome.
love it.
You are enough, audience. You are enough.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to leave everyone
Yeah.
with.
Yes.
Steven, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you guys. What you guys are doing. So thank you.
Yes, it was definitely a blessing to have you on Bold Beginnings. Remember to be bold
And be brave.
and be better. We'll see you soon.
Catch you next time.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.